Per 9000's game room.
Okay, so it's back to a Disney game again. I'm going to be reviewing Toy Story on the SNES. So Toy Story is a side-scrolling platform game which was released by Disney Interactive Studios in 1995. The game came out for the Sega Mega Drive, also known as Genesis, the Nintendo Game Boy, Microsoft Windows, and of course the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, which is obviously the one I'm going to review here. The game might have been released by Disney Interactive Studios, but it was actually made by Traveller's Tales, who are a British video game developer which was founded in 1989. Most people will probably know Traveller's Tales for their more recent games, in particular their LEGO games, especially the LEGO Star Wars games. Traveller's Tales still essentially exists. It was purchased for an undisclosed amount on the 8th of November 2007 by Warner Bros. Interactive Entertainment. Toy Story was a pretty important film really when you stop and think about it. After all, it was the film which brought about a new age of 3D animation. It was also, to a certain extent, the start of the end for Disney's traditional animated films. This is not the first time I've talked about Pixar in relation to games. Strangely, that would have been Uni Racers, also known as Uni Rally. But this is the first time I'm talking about a game which was, to at least some degree, trying to bring the official Pixar experience to a home console. To decide whether it succeeds or not, I guess one would have to define what Pixar as a studio really stands for, what makes its films different to others, and does the game live up to this in any way, shape or form. Toy Story follows the basic plot of the movie. Yes, it doesn't follow it to the letter, but if you've seen the film, then you'll basically know what's going on. Most of the time you control Woody the cowboy, who controls pretty much like you would expect from a typical platformer. The direction pad controls what direction you're going in, and then you can jump around and you can use Woody's lasso. I have to give the game credit for the fact that it mixes things up a bit. There are the standard platforming stages where the idea is the usual leap over this and that, avoiding taking too much damage until you reach the level's end, but then there are also stages which can best be described as sort of scavenger hunts where you have to search for toys or other items. Then there are also chase stages and boss battles, so you could say that things remain pretty varied, which can, if handled correctly, help to make a game remain fun for longer. The standard platformer stages suffer, though, from being formulaic. Yes, they tick a lot of the boxes, decent controls, graphics which look quite a lot like the source material, but there is no real defining attribute to them that you wouldn't find elsewhere. Woody's platformer stages never introduce anything new to the game, but I guess the developers felt they didn't have to do anything much with them because they went to a lot of trouble to break them up with other different game types. For example, you have one stage which requires you to drive the RC car through a maze of toys that cannot be hit. The problem is that it's a complete pain in the behind to control. If you've played something like Micro Machines on the Mega Drive or Super Skid Marks or Power Drive, then you will know that driving with this sort of viewpoint can be done a lot better. Okay, then you get to ride on Rex the Dinosaur in a scrolling from left to right chase sequence, which sounds thrilling, but it's not really. This kind of thing has been done so much better in other games. I think a lot of effort went into keeping the game varied so as to try and prevent people from getting bored, and I need to make special mention of a 3D Doom Wolfenstein bit where you move around as Woody in a first person view, which I thought was pretty cool, and not something I expected to see in a Disney based game. The bad side is that the whole game can be done and dusted by a decent player in under an hour, and you feel very little need to come back to it. That's the thing about the film Toy Story. It's a timeless piece of entertainment in my opinion. It's about fundamental things. It's about jealousy, about how to deal with your own sense of insecurity at your place in the world. It's about how you exist in various social circles and how the introduction of a new person can alter a group dynamic. But it's also wrapped up in just good honest fun. I don't think this game really stands for anything other than an inevitable law of the 90s. If Disney make a film that racks in the dollar, then they will have someone make a game of it to get even more cash. I'm not saying that it's a bad game, I'm just saying that it's very forgettable. Something that you will pick up, play, and soon it'll just go out of your mind completely. This is what makes games like Super Mario World truly special. You play them and they grab a hold of you, and they take up a place in your life. They're in your memory forever. I'd give Toy Story a 6 out of 10. It's a decent, enjoyable, but ultimately forgettable game. You can get a cart of it for about £10, which if you're looking for a decent platformer Well, you could do a lot worse, but you could also do better. Despite receiving mixed reviews back in the day, apparently the game did well. An interesting bit of trivia to note is that there were a lot less copies of the SNES version made, apparently due to Super NES chip shortages, which prevented them from producing as many copies as they would have liked to have done. Okay, this is Kerr9000 signing off, saying keep on gaming.